Hi, I'm Kane Lee. I am head of content at Baobab Studios and executive producer of the piece we're here to talk about this year, Crow the Legend.
So let's start by talking about the View conference. What are your thoughts about this gathering of people from VR, visual effects, gaming, and other mediums?
I think it's quite special, actually. I haven't seen something of this size that still feels as intimate as it does. So the level of conversation is extremely deep and very interdisciplinary. So it really seems to fit sort of the environment of Turin and sort of like being surrounded by these beautiful mountains. This sense of freshness but tradition, and I think just Maria Elena has this like talent for curating a lot of the best people across these different fields and making every year feel unique.
When it comes to Turin, Italy, can you kind of address the global nature of the virtual reality business today?
I can't think of any industry that's brought me more out into the world than virtual reality. It's something in a time when our world is very fractured and divided. It's something that a lot of people across every culture is interested in, because I think that the people within all these different countries and societies who are interested in VR, they recognize that this is the future, that it's not a matter of if, but when. And there's this innate curiosity and this spirit of community that's really exciting to be in right now, that I think you wouldn't get in more mature industries. So it really inspires people to travel and to talk with people from other countries and to share ideas that maybe you wouldn't otherwise in more traditional industries.
Part of the audience here is made up of students. What's it like for you to be able to speak directly to students, potentially the next generation of VR creators?
I think it's paramount that we speak with students. They are going to be the leaders of this industry. They're going to be the ones that blow our minds once they get through school and their training and start to go into VR, because they've grown up in more using more immersive entertainment and games, and their minds are fresh. So they haven't been they haven't grown too accustomed to thinking the way that my generation growing up in the 80s and 90s would have about TV screens and things that we're used to. So it's paramount that we talk with them, but it's also just very fun and exciting as a early sort of pioneer and content creator in the space, because their level of interest is nothing like I've ever seen before. So I've never worked in an area where I've had more kids and college students try out one of our VR pieces and actually run out of the room and come back in a couple minutes later, dragging in their parents to tell their parents, you got to check this out, this is what I want to do.
When it comes to VR, very, very new industry still, but the video game industry has been telling stories interactively for 40 plus years now. How do those types of learnings from that industry help with the interactive element of VR storytelling?
I mean, I think we can look at what kinds of stories have emerged from doing that the more traditional storytellers, like I come more from a film background, what we respond to or not respond to. They've done things ahead of time so that we can decide, do we want to do branching narrative? Do we want to look for a different sort of structure to narrative with interactivity? What does interactivity mean in the context of VR? Is it the ability to touch things? Is it the ability for there to be changing storylines or changing emotions? So I think we're very grateful that they've laid a lot of sort of groundwork and sort of a foundation of ways to look at what interactivity can do for storytelling. And I think it's up to us all, all these different disciplines sort of crossing paths together now to sort of hold hands and try to see if we can figure out things to do together.
And speaking of crossing disciplines, you guys have also been using video game technology with Unreal over the course of this. How How does that help with dealing with VR and storytelling the way you guys are approaching it?
I mean, it using Unreal or Unity is very fundamental, because what we get out of using a real-time game engine is we get characters that acknowledge your presence, that make you feel that they're real, that invite you to be a part of their world, if you're willing to suspend your disbelief. Only when you have something like a game engine where they can respond to you in real time, where they can, you can reach out and touch them, you can interact with them, they can mirror your actions, they can do things that we know through human psychology and through our different arts and our research that make you feel more engaged and inspired to actually act inside of these stories. So that's what game engines are uniquely positioned to do for content creators like us.
When it comes to your latest title, can you talk a little bit about how you feel you're pushing things forward and what you learned from your past?
Well, our latest title is called Crow the Legend. It's based off a Native American legend that's existed for a long time. And we're just very proud to have found collaborators like John Legend, like Native Americans in Philanthropy, who want to take a little known tale and share it with the world in the best way possible and in the most immersive way possible, which is virtual reality. And how we're pushing it works on a lot of different levels. Technologically, we created this in Unity, and everyone will first experience it in real time. You will be a part of the experience. You will actually be someone we call the spirit of the seasons, and you will have the ability to affect the weather. And you're the sort of inciting event that brings change to the planet Earth, which has never seen winter before at the start of the story. So you make it snow, you bring a change to the seasons, and this inspires. And what I like about this interactivity, and where I think it's groundbreaking more personally, is less the wizardry. Like our tech people can do all sorts of things, but the fact that it's story driven, it's driven by the story. Your function, your use of interactivity is only there to drive a story in as seamless and meaningful of a way as possible.
Are there lessons that you guys have learned when it comes to interactivity, and also the amount of time people are comfortable spending in VR that have applied from project to project?
Our first project, Invasion, which was very popular and got us an Emmy Award, was 6 minutes long. And I think at the time it came out, that was perfect. I think that the growing market for VR, people are much more used to it. A lot of people on average have at least tried VR or are curious about trying VR. So we really designed this experience to be as entertaining and meaningful and joyous for someone who's done a lot of VR to someone who's never done VR before. So it actually clocks in at 22 minutes, which we feel is, for today and in the near future, the longest anyone would want to wear a headset for in a narrative experience. And we're really lucky because everyone who's tried it so far usually guesses a number far below 22 minutes. But to us that was really interesting, because 22 minutes is the definition of like a half-hour episode, like you'd watch on TV. So we found that everyone can get through our experience no problem at that amount. And the lesson we learned about interactivity is trying to create a language for the interactivity that's story-driven. So in our experience, we use haptic feedback, we use a narrator talking to you, we use visual effects and sound. We use all those different stimuli to kind of guide you in terms of using the interactivity. But each interactivity almost kind of has a beginning, middle, and end. So there's a very sort of clean intuitiveness to it, and it's a lot of fun. For example, one of the key moments that I shared with the audience today is going on the journey with the crow through space to find the one who creates everything by thinking. And you, as a spirit of the seasons, actually can wave your arms, and you send out these wisps into space that interact with the planets that interact with the stars and the constellations and the meteors coming at Crow. And you can help guide him on his journey. And whenever you interact with those planetary elements, you actually change the music in a way that is additive and creates your own soundtrack for that journey. So everyone has a unique soundtrack, and we call everyone. We use sort of our design to make everyone sort of move their hands like a symphony conductor, and in a way conduct their own soundtrack for the experience.